What's going on? Oh, I am so excited. Oh, y'all know I get so pumped when I learn something new about how our ancestors fought back in the midst of tyranny. In this episode, I am going to be sharing with you all the ways in which our enslaved African ancestors tried everything that they possibly could to still learn how to read and write. Yes. Oh, you are all in for a treat because the ways in which our ancestors, the things that they did, I mean, you talk about tapped into their genius. Okay. Y'all stay tuned. All right. And y'all know what it is. You better get that notebook and pencil. Everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am your most gracious host, Miss Sation. And with Real Reading Talk, I discuss the real systemic issues that are at the very core, the very foundation, as to why we have these high levels of illiteracy in our Black communities. And I discuss the ways in which we can combat these issues together. I welcome you. I thank you for joining me, whether you are watching and listening to me on YouTube or you are listening to me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. I thank you. And I want you to make sure that you subscribe, okay? Because this channel, this particular podcast, the intent was to empower our communities as it pertains to reading and writing. I started Real Reading Talk back in 2017. I started it right after I had already was about 5 years strong into the nonprofit organization ABC Read that I started. It was established, ABC Read was established in 2012. However, it was able to gain traction in terms of us being able to provide programming in 2014. So that's when we were able to get some funding that we needed so that we can have literacy programs throughout our city of Cleveland. Okay. And then again, I had already been a reading tutor. All right. So I had started my reading tutoring business, ABC Learn. And then I added the tutoring piece because I wanted people to really know that, okay, this is an actual tutoring business. Okay. So Real Reading Talk came about because I love to talk about and learn about. I'm always trying to do some type of research, whether it's on a micro level, a small level. Maybe I got, exposed to a podcast or I listened to this one particular, what is called In Class with Carr on Saturdays that Professor Karen Hunter started. And this is something in terms of I get a lot of my information as it pertains to reading different books, all of these things, because Dr. Greg Carr, he is the one who leads that class, and he has been leading the way in us making sure that we get back to our African genius, our African roots, which is valuing education. This is the history in which we come from. And so with Real Reading Talk, I wanted to discuss that because as we see, just like we have here in Cleveland, just like we have across this nation, a lot of us have this same complaint, which is our children are not proficient or they're not on an advanced or an accelerated level when it comes to reading and writing. They are absolutely struggling. And there are reasons behind that. And that's why I wanted to have these discussions here. So I talk about certain things, certain topics that I feel like is very important, something that should be addressed. And then I also invite guests on. Shout out to my one particular guest, Ebony Donnelly. She's been on here multiple times. She is a literacy advocate, educator in the city of Cleveland, well over 20 years. She's very known in the community for promoting and advocating reading in our communities. I've had guests on here, one brother, Akil Parker. He is someone who is an advocate for literacy, but he's also an advocate for math. All right. So he is somebody that I've had on here because I wanted us as a community to address that issue too, where because literacy, you have to know how to read in order to do math, right? But this issue of us being kind of lightweight scared of math. You don't know how many times I've heard Black folks say, man, I ain't with that math. Me raising my hand, included. Okay. I'm like, because where did I get that from? Well, that was something I learned actually from my mother. My mother, she not into math, you know. So with that being said, again, Real Reading Talk is on a mission and we are continuing on our mission. And so today's episode, I wanted to bring you some information that I actually learned from reading this book here. This book right here, Self Taught African American Education in Slavery and Freedom, written by Heather Andrea Williams. Okay. This is a book I highly recommend that you try your best to get a copy of. Okay. I'm not for sure how many, if it's a lot of these copies in print, but this is a book that I heard a brother who was on a podcast. He actually had recommended this book. And, he was a brother who was, I can't remember that brother's name, but he was talking about literacy. And he's an educator himself. And he mentioned this book. And so again, my ears get to tingling when I hear about somebody mentioning books and everything of that nature. And I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and Google this. So I said, let me get a copy of this. And boy, I tell you, this sister is on it, okay? And I'm literally like, I'm only on chapter 2, and it's 9 chapters. But just so you know, she is about research, okay? I know you guys, obviously if you're listening, you can't see me. I'm holding the book up now. But I love when I see our people do the most thorough research that they possibly can do. You talk about, she got the bibliography in the back, you know how when you're reading and they have the little numbers, at the end of a sentence showing you that, okay, this is where that information came from. You go back. I mean, just tons of books, articles, journals, all of these different things. So she did the damn thing. Okay. She wasn't just talking out the side of her left butt cheek or out the side of her neck. All right. So she was definitely like, hey, look, I'm about to do this research because I need to learn about my people when it came to them being adamant about being educated during a time where it was illegal. Go figure, right? Allah, one God, gives us that innate ability to be able to learn how to read and write and study and knowledge. All knowledge comes from God. But here it is, you have some folks, and I'm putting in air quotes, who come along and say, no, you can't read. You can't write. And in fact, if I see you doing that, I'm going to gouge your eyes out. I'm going to whip you in front of everybody. I'm going to cut off your fingers. I'm going to cut off your foot. I'm going to cut off your hand. I'm going to scare the crap out of you. I'm going to do everything that I can to keep you from that God-given right. But guess what, y'all? Guess what this sister did in here? She, in her research, has said, let me find out the ways in which our people did everything they could to learn in a system that was anti-human and denied them that ability, that right to be able to read and learn. Because as we know, and for those of you who may not know, about a third of our ancestors who were stolen from Africa, a third of them were Muslim, okay? And why this is important, because of the fact in the faith of Islam, reading and being literate, that is something that you must do. That's an obligation. In fact, the first verse in the Quran, which is the holy book that Muslims read, that was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings of God be upon him. Read in the name of thy Lord who created. Read. Okay, so reading and studying was something that our African ancestors were used to doing. They were actually studied when it came to astronomy, the sciences, math. There are still books to this day that have not been translated out of the Arabic language, because a lot of those books, like in Timbuktu, a lot of us reference Timbuktu because that's where you have that very massive library in Western Africa. And a lot of those books were still and are still in the process of being translated. Books that talk about, like I just said, all the different sciences, math, okay, astronomy, all of these different things that our African brothers and sisters were already privy to before the disruption, before the interruption that occurred when you had those folks who called themselves white and said, you all, we're going to take you, put you in this system. You are going to work for us. You are going to have our children, whether they were raping our women or whether they were having our enslaved ancestors breed, like they were breeding factories. And they say, you all are going to do this so that you all can build up our system of this false notion of white supremacy. Why is this important? Why do I talk about this? Because again, when you're talking about this issue of illiteracy in our communities, we can't just start with starting the story in the middle. We have to start, well, where did this come from? Why do we have this issue of high levels of illiteracy in our Black communities? We can't just say things like, well, these kids, man, they don't care about no reading. All they care about doing is rapping or singing or playing a sport, or all they care about is being out in the streets. All they care about is just making money and looking a certain way, because this is the narrative that we are given. And especially in the Black community, we have a way of doing that to each other. Because again, that is our open enemies. That is their program. That's their plan. They come in, they divide and conquer, and then they make us have all of these ways in which we look at each other like, yeah, it's you. Yeah, it's you. See, you the reason, you the reason. And all the while they sitting in the back like, that's what they're doing. The evil, diabolical laugh. And we're sitting up there looking at each other. Yeah, see, you're not doing this. I'm doing this. I made it. How come you can't? Whoop, all the whoop de whoop. And then we're not even going to the core, the foundational root issue, the cause of the problem. Where did all this crap come from? You telling me that our people who were once literate, who valued education, you're talking about the alphabet system that we utilize to this day, this American alphabet system, where did that come from? When you go back and do that research, you talk about, oh, wait, we had, our Egyptian brothers and sisters. Oh, they were literate as well. Something called hieroglyphs. All of those symbols that when you have those folks who going over there in Egypt and they are doing their research, the archaeologists, and they're finding all of this information, you're like, oh my God, man, they had a whole system. You're damn right they did. You're damn skippy they did. They was on top of, they had their whole system. They had a community. They communicated. They had their own language. It wasn't no English. So these are things that we have to learn about. These are things that we have to know. Because if we don't know, then what we do is we become, like a lot of our Black scholars remind us of, we become a footnote in their history. We become the little paragraph in the history book that shows the little Black boy with tattered clothes playing a banjo on a broken down porch of a shack. That's what we become. And then all of a sudden, we just, all we's got to do is just praise, and the Lord, he gonna free us now. Don't go and start in that trouble now, because, we's gonna be free. That's the narrative that they want us to have. That we never did anything to fight back. Like our people never did anything to resist. Resistance wasn't a part of our vocabulary. And that's what brings me to what I wanted to address right now. Y'all, make sure that you have your notebooks, your pens, pencils, crayons, whatever it is you decide you want to write with. Because I'm about to drop some knowledge on you that this sister put in this book again. Like I said, African American Education and Slavery and Freedom. Self-taught, baby. Come on now. Resilience and genius. Yes, our people, they were in a diabolical, demonic system, right? That told them that if this white person caught them trying to learn how to read, Even though, by the way, let's be clear, a lot of white folks then, they were illiterate too. We want to make sure we say that because that's the truth. A lot of them were illiterate in the language that they were putting together, the amalgamation of that English bastardized language that they were putting together, putting on our people. A lot of them, they didn't even know how to read themselves and do math. In fact, they would use some of our enslaved ancestors who did know how to read or know how to do some math when it came to certain things, when they need to get their books together and get their money together and all of that type of stuff. Yeah. But on the whole scope of it all, they definitely were team white supremacy when it came to being against Black people learning how to read and write, because they understood that literacy was linked to their freedom. How do we know this? We know this through the slave narratives that was left behind. One of the more popular ones is the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass. And one of the things that he talked about in one of his chapters was when that one mistress was teaching him how to read. And she, unbeknownst to her, she thought, that was cool. She can teach him and he can be able to do things, I guess, more on his own, be more independent in terms of serving them, whatever the case may be. She was teaching him how to read, right? Then her husband found out. He saw that she was teaching him how to read, and he forbade her immediately. He said, no, don't teach him how to read, because when you do, then he is going to become more rebellious. He is going to realize that what he's doing, being a slave, that's not going to be fit for him anymore. And if he's not going to be fit to be a slave, then what does that mean? That means resistance. That means turn up. That means that resurrections, then the insurrections rather. That's what begins to happen. And so he understood that, because again, when you have a demonic system that's created, they had to make sure they were all on the same accord. They had to make sure they were all on the same team. And so, you know what that mistress did? She stopped. She understood. She's like, okay, I'm not about to keep trying to, give this little Black N-word some power. I'm down with my husband. I'm down with this false notion of white supremacy. So I'm about to not teach him. In fact, that's what Frederick Douglass said. She became worse than him. She was creeping around corners, making sure, okay, he better not have no newspaper. He better not have no book. She was making sure of that. And so that's when he realized, he was like, oh my goodness, they are on it when it comes to trying to keep me from learning how to read. So that's when that Ingenious started to kick in. And this is what is leading me to what I wanted to share with you all. This sister right here had documented the many different ways in which our enslaved, kidnapped African ancestors did in order to learn how to read and write. All right, so check this out, okay? She says that they truly had to steal an education. Some enslaved Africans hid spelling books under their hats to be ready whenever they could entreat or bribe a literate person to teach them. That's one of the ways. Number two, some turned to white children too young to understand that they violated the slave code, or to poor white men who did not care. Y'all crazy, right? Former slaves recounted stories of trading food and money for letters and words. Okay? They said, no, we care about this knowledge more than we care about putting some food in our bodies at this particular time. All right? In exchange for writing lessons, G.W. Offley fed a white boy whose father had gambled away the family's money. Offley later traded boxing and wrestling lessons with white men for writing instruction. I mean, look at that. Our brother said, hey, look at here. You want to learn how to fight? Okay, so this is what we're going to do, right? I teach you how to box and wrestle. You teach me these letters. So I can put these letters together and make some words so then I can start reading every damn thing I see. Let's grow. James Fisher gave an old man money to buy whiskey in exchange for his writing lessons. Come on now. Come on. As a young enslaved boy, Richard Parker picked up old nails and traded them for marbles that he then used to pay white boys for reading lessons. I mean, look at that. He said, I'm gonna get some old nails, trade these in for some marbles because he knew that the white boys wanted the marbles. So he said, look here. I need to learn here how to read. You want these marbles, right? Let's go. Let's do business. Oh my God. He carried a primer, which for those who, like in education, like that's like some basic like words, like maybe like the and those basic words that you learn when you are first learning how to read. So it said he carried a primer under his hat to be ready for class at any time. You see what I'm saying? Like, oh my God. Oh my goodness. Then it says another one, Uncle Charles, a former enslaved man in North Carolina, recounted that he also carried a primer under his hat and he would challenge white boys to tell him what a letter was until he managed to learn the alphabet. Like, seriously. He once traded a knife for a reading lesson from a white boy. And then, so now I'm gonna go into, because as you see, right? So I'm talking about these what a lot of the men were doing. Okay, especially too back then in their system, you had like a lot of the men, they may had to go out run errands for the master and all of that type of stuff, and they had to go do this. A lot of the women will be doing more of the house duties. Okay, so peep this. So it says at the same time, women who work inside the owner's household could entice their young white charges to pass on what they learned in school. Okay, so number one, it said Alice Green, she recalled that her mother had learned to read by keeping a school book in her bosom all the time and asking the white children to tell her everything they had learned in school each day. See that? What you learn? What you learn today, Miss Susie? Oh, what you learn today, Mr. Charles? Oh, really? Oh, wow. Can you tell me, say that word again? What's that first sound? But okay, and what letter name? Wow, you so smart, Miss Susie. Oh, a smart little girl. And all the while she like, yeah, you so smart. And I'm gonna be even smarter because you don't even know that I'm right now and I'm scamming you. I'm doing everything that I can to push back against this demonic system. I'm a smile and pump you up and pub you up and all that. I'm a kiki and and all that while I'm learning. Mm-hmm. Um, Also, it says here, in this way, she learned enough to teach school once slavery ended. So just like I just talked about with this, the lady Alice Green, and she kept asking the white children to tell her everything they had learned. In this way, it says she learned enough to teach school once slavery ended. So she utilized them interactions, conversations that she had with those white folks that she had to serve. Remember now, our enslaved ancestors, when it came even to them little kids, they had to call them Miss and Mister, or Miss and Master, whatever. They had to address them as if they were their elders. These is grown folks, grown men and women, our elders who deserve respect. They had to honor these little kids. All because based off of what? Again, what is that called? Oh, this false notion of white supremacy, right? Let's move on. Alan Allensworth's mother encouraged him to play school, okay, with his young master who attended school every day. Peep this. This the mother, Alan Allensworth's mother, giving her son game on something to where he can be knowledgeable. He can learn so that eventually he will be able to read and write. And hopefully, because with a lot of our people who did learn how to read and write, just like Frederick Douglass and Harriet Jacobs and others, they wound up escaping, or they started insurrections like Nat Turner, right? Or Gabriel Prosser or Denmark Vesey, right? Here's in this other, I have to end with this one, right? She says, enslaved people put the resources they could garner to maximum use. Mandy Jones knew of a young man who learned to read and write in a cave. She also recalled that there were pit schools near her Mississippi plantation. Slaves would dig a pit in the ground way out in the woods, but they also housed schools. Okay? And the last part, it says, according to Jones, slaves would slip out of the quarters at night and go to these pits, and some nigga that had some learning would have a school. All right? I'm sorry, I got to read this part too. In South Carolina, Edmund Carlisle cut blocks from pine bark and smoothed them into slates. He dropped oak into water to make ink, and he used a stick as his pen. Please, y'all, can we stop making excuses? No, I'm serious, man. This is real reading talk. Can we stop making excuses? We got all the technology at our fingertips, resources. We got YouTube University. We don't have these barriers like our enslaved ancestors had, where somebody's constantly on you and literally would flog you, beat you, make you starve, cut your limbs off, gouge your eyes out. These are real things that happen to our people, but our people still did everything that they could. They used that genius, that God-given genius. Everybody has a genius, y'all. Everybody has a genius. But I'm just going to tell you, one of the things that I see, and I truly believe, because of the fact, number one, we know that the first man, those who believe, okay, because we believe the first man that was created was Adam, right? So we call Adam our father because he was the first man that was created. This man was a black man, okay? This is what we believe. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Come on now. Whether you are a Muslim, you're a Christian faith, you know what I'm talking about. So that genius, that African genius, that God-given genius is inside of us. But if we don't tap into it, if we don't try to do our best to find every way possible to learn about this particular genius, then what we do is we relegate ourselves to this inferior status, and we start thinking that, well, I don't know nothing. Now, we may not say it like that. I got to put some little, some little funny on it or whatever the case. And it's not funny in a sense because, yes, our people was doing the best that they could. But it's like we do tend to go back to that mentality of I don't know. And the only way I's gonna learn is if the white man's tell me or the white woman's tell me. We do that. Yes, we do. On a subconscious level, yes, we do. And we have to stop that. You know how we do that? Let me give you an example, because I know somebody's listening. I know I don't do that, but I'm going to tell you how we do that. We do that by believing and thinking that our children are going to learn when they go into these schools. We depend on the schools instead of preparing our children when they're in the womb. When they're in the womb, our children should be being read to. They should be talked to. They should get used to hearing your voice in a calm, soothing way. They should get used to hearing words being uttered around them. And then when that baby is born, you're talking to them. You're looking at them lovingly in their eyes. You're looking at their beautiful skin, their beautiful lips, nose, cheeks, hair, everything. And you're reminding them of how, not only how beautiful they are, but how brilliant they are. You're reading to them the stories of our ancestors, of their resilience as they get older, when they have more understanding. You're singing nursery rhymes to them. Make up your own nursery rhymes. It don't have to be just the ones, a lot of them we grew up on that we know that these were created by some white folks. Come up with your own nursery rhymes. When they're babies, actually, that's the best time for them to learn another language. I would highly implore that you do that. Have them listening to different languages. They should know how to speak Spanish. They should know how to speak Mandarin, Arabic, Kiswahili, hieroglyphs. Teach them so that when they think on a global level, because that's what you're doing, you are introducing them to the fact that they are global citizens. They're not just citizens here of this United States. That's not united. It's united, all right. It's united on, again, that team white supremacy, because that's what it was built on. Remember the desecration of our indigenous brothers and sisters who were here, knowing the earth, having a great relationship with the earth, honoring the earth, respecting the earth. And then here comes some devils. Oh, can you help us, please? Can you? And then our Native American brothers and sisters say, okay. The next thing you know, they get the help, and what do? What we see them do. We see that on every level, right? It's like when you have these white folks, and I'm talking about those white folks who subscribe to the false notion of white supremacy, because you got some white folks, and it's probably some white folks who subscribe to my channel, and you listening, and you like, you know what, you're doing everything you can to dismantle this. And guess what? I am so grateful that you are doing that, and you should be doing that. Make sure you educate your community, though, because remember, it's y'all job to dismantle this demonic system. Our job is to keep building within ourselves as a people that resilience, that knowledge, that wisdom, and remembering the things that was dismembered. That's our job as Black folks. Your job is to go back and tell that community that you come from. I'm talking about obviously the white folks who are listening here on the channel. You go back and you educate your people. You tell them. You tell them about the things that you've learned from our people, the things that that you all are learning in terms of things that their folks have done to our folks, and how you all need to get rid of this sickness, this made up social construct of whiteness. It's made up, period. But this made up construct has wreaked havoc across the globe. And folks are sick of it. And they're doing everything they can to dismantle it. And they should. You can't stop somebody from being the best version of themselves as a human being, that the way that Allah, one God, created them. You can't do that. You're going to get pushback, and you should get pushback. So if you are about fighting against that, then hats off to you. Kudos to you. I'm proud of you. Keep going. Keep doing that. But right here, right now on this channel, who I'm focusing on is our people who have constantly had to live under tyranny and trauma. And we still are doing everything we can to try our best to be the best under a system that continuously keeps beating our leg, like Dr. Joy DeGruy said, beating our leg and then asking us why we limp. Damn that. And then I'm going to end on this with this part. It says some slaves copied letters and words whose meanings they could not yet decipher onto fences and in the dirt. And then it says then it says this, and more than 100 years later, when slave cabins were excavated, archaeologists were surprised to find, along with the predictable shards of colonaware, pottery, food bones, and oyster shells, the remains of graphite pencils and writing slates, some with words and numbers still written on them. Why did I want to do this episode? The first reason is to empower our people, to remind you that we come from a people who invented the saying, making a way out of no way. Our people always fought back, y'all. Our people always resisted against a system that has been built on being anti-human. Our people did everything that they could, even through their fears, even when they were scared out of their wits, even when they saw their mothers being sold away, their siblings being separated, babies literally being taken out of the arms of the begging, crying mother. Please, please don't take my baby. Whatever you do, don't do that. Don't take my baby. Pleading with somebody who has no empathy. Somebody who don't even understand what empathy means. This is what our people still did the very best that they could to fight back against this demonic system. And I'm telling you all this because we have no excuses. We have no excuses. The reason why I do this podcast and I make sure that I have books behind me, and I got, as you see, Reading is Freedom, because that is the brand that I created after reading the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, because what he said was, once you learn to read, you will be forever free. That desire for you to want to live your life in the way that God intended you to live your life. It's a burning desire. It's that sensation that's at the pit of your stomach. It's that purpose that was given to you. And when you understand that, when you connect with who you are, and you realize your gifts, your God-given talents, then you're going to do everything, hook or crook. It does not matter. Just like what you heard me read out of this book, our people did some of the most ingenious things because they said, no, I am going to read. I'm going to write. I'm going to do everything I can because I know this is going to lead me to liberty. I'm going to do that. And if it means I got to go in the middle of the night, be up with all the bugs, the snakes, whatever, and I got to go to this pit in the ground that somebody done dug up. I got to go to this cave. I got to create this slate and create and have this ink, putting stuff in the water, making ink, and then using the utensil, a stick, dipping it in the ink and writing. If I got to do that, I'm going to do that. That's the mentality we got to get back to. And I truly believe that if our young people, they hear these stories, if these are the stories, because don't depend on the schools. Don't say, man, this need to be in school. Okay, stop your thinking right there. If you've said that, just stop. Because I know we have a tendency to do that, right? We learn things. We're like, man, this need to be in them school. Mm-mm. Stop. Don't do that. Reason why is because they didn't put it in the school for a reason. The same reason why they said that our ancestors could not read, could not write, and if they caught them learning how to, they were going to do everything they can to stop them. That applies to 2025. This is not important to a system that says that they want to be in domination and control over your Black body. That's not going to be important to them. So don't say things like, it need to be in the school. No, it don't. It need to be in your house. Your house is the first school. It need to be in your home. And if it's not in your home, you don't have this book. Like I said, that's why I did this particular episode. Utilize this episode as a catalyst. Say, you know what? Okay, now I got to get this. But I done showed y'all the book. I done said the title. Go back, rewind, screenshot, Google. See if they got it at the library. Maybe you don't have to worry about trying to purchase the copy. See if they got it at the library. And if they don't have it at the library, then ask them, can you all get it from another? Can you check other libraries, please? Because I want that book. If you can't go ahead and purchase the book right now. But if you can purchase the book, just like how we put our money aside for things that we want, like my grandmother would always say, people make time and they find ways to do the things that they want to do. That's what they do. That's what they do. Trust and believe. If you wanna get your hair done a certain kind of way, you're gonna hook a crook. You want to go to the concert, to the movie, get your favorite cup of coffee, you're gonna do it. You're gonna get your ice cream. Telling on myself, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it. So prioritize. Say, no, I want to learn this because I want my children to know this. Maybe you don't have children, but you're around children, I'm quite sure. You got nieces and nephews, you got little cousins, family reunion time coming up. Those are the times where you can have those kinds of conversations. We could talk about other things and all of that, but we need to talk about these kinds of things. These are things that need to be normalized in our communities. Because we are in a time, as y'all already see, I mean, they're literally talking about defunding these libraries. So we're about to get to a point because, again, when you talk about folks who are in a demonic state of mind, they get their ideas from the devil. Only a devil tells another human being, no, you can't read, you can't learn, you can't write. I'm enslaved. You're going to work for me. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to rape you. I'm going to torture you. That did not, there was no way in hell that was sanctioned by God. And you know that. We know that. That's something that the devil said he was going to do. So you know that. You know they're doing everything they can to turn back the hands of time. They miss them old days, don't they? They miss them days when they could crack the whip and we can be like, oh, please, please, Master, don't. They miss that. They get extremely aroused by those thoughts. They really do. And so that's why I'm telling you all, we have to have more of a yearning, a burning desire to be free. And one of the main ways that freedom occurs is through knowledge. Knowledge, wisdom, and the application of it. Because it's one thing to learn how to read, and then there's another thing to actually put it to practice and be reading all of the time, studying. And then after that, it has to transform into some type of action. So I'm going to end there. I thank you all again for listening. I hope that this episode was beneficial. I hope that anything that I said in here where I was wrong, please, you do fact checking. Put it in the comments section. Hey, this, was not correct, but make sure you back it up with evidence now. Make sure you back it up with evidence. All right. So I appreciate you all again for listening. And again, as always, like I remind you all, I remind myself, please make sure that you are reading for at least 30 minutes a day. And I hope that you all like, subscribe, share, comment, hit the notification bell, because this was another episode of Real Reading Talk. And Real Reading Talk is the place in which we discuss the real systemic issues at the very core, the very foundation, the root of why we have these high levels of illiteracy in our Black communities, and the ways in which we can combat these issues together. I am Ms. Sasha, and you all take care. And remember, reading is freedom. Peace. Hey, everybody. Once again, I hope that episode was very beneficial. And just make sure you're taking notes, and not only taking notes, make sure you're sharing, and not only you're sharing, make sure that you are applying the different things that you are learning. All right. So now it's time for some housekeeping. Just to remind you all, I am a pre-K through fourth grade reading tutor. The name of my reading tutoring business is ABC Learn Tutoring. So if your child is struggling with phonemic awareness, which is connecting the sounds to the letters, identification of letters, all the way to reading comprehension, sentence structuring, please feel free to reach out to me by going to abclearntutoring.com and click on that free reading assessment today. And again, I am the founder and executive director of ABC Read, our nonprofit organization. Our mission is to develop and nurture a culture of literacy in Black and underserved communities. We've given away over 8,000 books, have phenomenal and continue to have phenomenal reading experiences, we like to call them, that are intergenerational. We also are into making sure we're promoting healthy foods, healthy eating, so we make sure we have that at our events as well. We are now embarking upon our very first fundraising gala, which is going to take place in a little under a month, May 3rd, and it is going to be at the Hen Mansion, which is in Euclid, Ohio. We have like about 53 seats available, and it is going to be fabulous, y'all. We already have a beautiful program lined up. So if you are interested in supporting our cause, all the proceeds go back into the organization. All the things that I mentioned that we do, and then some literacy workshops that we have, book clubs. These are things that people can testify and say, yes, we've seen them do this, and yes, they've made an impact in the community. And so we need the funding to continue to make that impact in the community. So make sure you go to abcread.org and you click on that make a donation button, and then it will lead you to the link so that you can put in your information to purchase your ticket, either for yourself or someone else. And then again, like I remind you all, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Reading is Freedom, and grab your merch. I got my merch on right now. I'll be rocking it, okay? Reading is freedom. We got the bags, we got the hoodies. You need these items on, because we need to make a clarion call as it pertains to letting the people know that reading is important. And this is an all-inclusive, holistic approach. We need to have everybody on board, all right, for us to promote the value of literacy, especially during a time where people are defunding libraries, okay? I don't even call them people. I don't know what they are, but they want to take away public institutions, book banning, all these different things. So these are ways in which we fight back, all right? So with that being said, I'm going to end with letting you all know the book that I've been reading, which I've referenced it throughout the episode. This book here, Self-Taught, African American Education in Slavery and Freedom, written by Heather Andrea Williams. I recommend you get this book. And then the quote I'm going to leave you all with is by our dear beloved ancestor Rosa Parks, in which she said, "I have learned over the years that when one's mind is made up, this diminishes fear." I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am your most gracious host, Ms. Sasha. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell. And remember, please keep reading for at least 30 minutes a day. And reading is freedom.